Welcome, welcome, welcome to Chats with Nick podcast, and I'm your host, Nick. Today we have another special guest, and I'm super excited because let me tell you about this artiste, okay? Listen, artiste. He knows how to mix fashion, soccer, with music. Let me tell you something. He's a photographer, audio engineer. Like everything. He's everything. Please, let's welcome the one and only Craig, or you can call him Nino. Nino, thank you so much for making it.
Yeah, no problem with that.
I definitely appreciate you. So I'm gonna jump right into this.
Yeah.
I know one of the things that you do is photography.
Yeah.
And also audio engineering.
Mm-hmm.
As far as photography, like, what is your passion? How did you get started?
Yeah, so I grew up skateboarding, and I was terrible at it because, I'm not the average size for your skateboarder, you know what I mean? So trying to kind of, make myself, able to hang out with the cool kids, right? I started shooting skate photos and video for some of my friends. And that just kind of spiraled into doing what I do now, which is a sort of a heightened version of that, shooting fashion photography primarily for my own work, for a couple of local brands, and the magazine that I just started up.
Excellent. So you said that you shoot currently your friends.
Yeah.
When you choose someone to photograph,
Mm-hmm.
what is that selection process? It's from a perspective of fashion.
Well, so a lot of the time, I kind of find people who have a style that I think is unique, that fits with my own style, which is kind of a little bit of athleisure, a little bit of punk rock, a little bit of streetwear, and just kind of blend it all together. Take what they have already, add maybe one or two pieces of it that tie it in a little bit better. Allow them to style themselves sometimes. Sometimes I do it. Sometimes we work with other people who are dedicated stylists, depending on the shoot and how comfortable that person is with styling themselves or letting me style them. And then normally it's people who I think have really cool aesthetics already that would make interesting art, but aren't going to necessarily be included in a sort of high fashion kind of magazine type thing. It's not about that for me. It's about boosting what other people are already doing, and then including my own sort of flavor into it.
Okay. So how, as a photographer, when you're in social environments,
Yeah.
how does that make you feel?
I'm a lot more confident with the camera in my hand than I am without one. You know, I don't. I'm not the most I'm very talkative when I know people. When I'm in an environment that I don't really feel comfortable in, it weirds me out a little bit. I'm the dude standing in the corner, Alessia Cara style. Why am I here? So I always, whenever I go to an event, I have a camera. Normally just to make myself have something to do. You know what I mean? And it makes me feel a little bit more at ease whenever I have a camera to shoot.
So when did you decide I'm going to choose me?
I feel like I haven't really decided that. You know what I mean? It's a slow process, and it's coming to understand that it's all right to do that. You know what I mean? The things that I'm passionate about, outside of music and fashion and stuff like that, make their way into my work anyway. So I'm really passionate about educating people about things, and to me, the stuff that I like educating people about is the kind of fashion that they might not know about. Soccer, because we're the only country in the world that doesn't care about football, and that kind of stuff. Just trying to be a little bit more educational with my own sort of twist on it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So lastly, if you could give us one thing that that is super unique to you, what would that thing be?
Wow. Oh man, that's a good question. Super unique to me. Probably the way that I like think about what I photograph, and who I photograph and why I do it that way. Like, I'm just recently getting like involved in like studio lighting and that kind of thing. Like the way that I've always operated has been like the way that I operated when I started, which is like shooting portraits out on the street. And so like in this area anyway, I feel like a lot of people have that like studio mentality, and I'm much more interested in putting people in environments where you don't necessarily think that that person would belong. So I'm very into like putting like, you know, like hardcore dudes that are like just straight out of like a show, you know, like coming out like the leather jackets, pins and patches, like that kind of thing, in like floral environments, and putting people who are like wearing active wear like in the middle of like downtown areas where it's kind of like gritty and it doesn't like necessarily make sense. And I'm especially about putting people of color in places where people don't tend to think we belong. But you know, I'm all about regentrification, taking over the spaces that we've been kicked out of, and moving that kind of like, keeping that kind of energy, moving into these places that people don't want us to be in. You know, the spaces that we don't feel like we belong in. And you know, for me, like there's so many people who don't necessarily feel like they have that kind of voice, especially, you know, when like now I feel like it's a lot different now than when I was coming up. But like, you know, for wearing what I'm wearing now, outside of the dunks maybe, like I probably would have got clowned, you know what I mean? So it's beautiful to me to see people working in a different environment now, and I want to keep that going.
That's,
you know?
Excellent. And you know what? I just want to say you're hot,
Hey,
clearly, you know what I'm saying? But I just want to say thank you for being on Chats with Nick. And to be honest with you, I selected you because I just knew you had a lot to give, and you're very introspective and also freaking talented.
Hey, thank you.
So thank you for bringing your talent here, because I know for a fact that someone is going to be inspired by your story.
I hope so.
And hope to, when they're behind the camera, they can too say, you know what, I can dare to be different.
Yeah.
So I guess we're going to conclude with this. Dare to be different. Like Nino. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's the only way to be, is different.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, and I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Woo. Yeah. Woo. Woo. Hey. Yeah. Yeah. Woo. Woo. Yeah, I know you want it. Yeah. Yeah, you can't have some of this, baby. Yeah. Yeah, Granny know how to drop it. Ooh, the damn